just because of a transfer student's joke. William sent me off to seduce that straight-A student who had always ranked first in our grade, the one from a poor family. I was just about to refuse, when I suddenly saw a bullet comment in front of my eyes. OMG. The side character who's just William's cast-off trash wants to seduce the male lead? Seriously? The male lead only likes girls who are smart, beautiful, and kind, okay? Even if the side character stripped naked in front of him, he wouldn't give her a second glance. The side character's total score in all her subjects probably doesn't even match the male lead score in one. These two sitting together wouldn't even have a common topic to talk about. William didn't wait for my reply. He glanced over impatiently. So, what? Don't want to do it? It's not like you study anyway. College entrance exams are coming soon. You're just wasting time. I paused, then said, okay. Chapter 1. That moment. William froze. What did you say? The comments kept flying across my vision. Can the side character take a look in the mirror before saying that? That tacky, try-hard face of hers isn't even in the same league as the female lead. Ugh. Someone stopped the side character from trying to get close. A girl like that just standing next to the male lead already dirties the view. I looked at the barrage of comments, expressionless, and repeated calmly. I said, I'm willing. William suddenly let out a laugh. Laura, you really are just my dog. Yeah, I didn't argue. Everyone said I was William's dog. I thought so too. At least following William meant I could eat and still go to school, better than being a stray dog with nowhere to go. The flashing colored lights in the karaoke room reflected off my faded school uniform jacket, clashing completely with the vibe of the place. William looked me over from head to toe, then suddenly pulled out a few bills and threw them onto my lap. Take it. Buy yourself something decent to wear. You look so cheap it's embarrassing. I tucked the money into my pocket and casually counted it. 500 yuan. William was a pain, but at least he was generous. For once, I gave him a genuine smile. Thanks. All right. William curled his lips slightly, then turned away and waved his hand dismissively. I've got Misty coming over. If she sees you here, she'll throw one of her little tantrums again. Chapter 2. Misty transferred from a high school in the city about half a month ago. Just like the comments said, she was smart and beautiful. She took first place in our class in her very first mock exam. And with that, she also took all of William's attention. Since then, William stopped going to and from school with me. Instead, he started walking several kilometers out of his way just to escort her home. Whenever it was Misty's turn for classroom duty, William would still walk out with his arm around her and give me a chin lift halfway through the door. Laura, you get home late anyway. Why don't you just do Misty's shift too? Isn't that a bit unfair? Misty nudged William playfully, pretending to scold him. What's the big deal? Your time should be used for studying. With grades like Laura's, even a lifetime of studying won't help. If she covers for you, it's practically a contribution to our school's elite student rate. Misty curved her eyes into a sweet smile and said to me cheerfully, well then, thank you, Laura. I'll work extra hard for the both of us. I clenched the pen in my hand. This wasn't the first time. When Misty was on her period, William didn't hesitate to raise my hand in class and say I wasn't feeling well, then ordered me to go buy her painkillers. When Misty whined about not wanting to do her handwriting assignments, William would toss her notebook onto my desk and tell me to copy it all for her within the period. These days, the thing I heard most often was, your time isn't worth anything. Misty's is different. Every single minute of hers counts. Maybe William was right. I really wasn't talented when it came to studying. The kinds of problems Misty only needed to see once to understand, I had to do them several times before I could guarantee I wouldn't mess up the next time. The vocabulary Misty could memorize with a single glance, I had to repeat over and over until my body could recall it automatically. My learning efficiency was low. My time was worthless. But so what? Even so, I was still going to study, because this was the only way out I had left. Chapter 3. At first, when people saw Misty and William flirting and acting overly close, there were still a few busybodies who shot William meaningful looks. William, aren't you worried Laura might get jealous? After all, she's been following behind you for years. William let out a mocking laugh. Jealous? Why would she be jealous? Laura's not my girlfriend. I do whatever I want. What right does she have to tell me otherwise? The guy was dumbfounded and mumbled, "Man, William is something else." With a face like Laura's, you're really willing to just toss her aside? So what if she's pretty? Laura is just a dog I feed. Without me, she wouldn't even have food to eat. What right does she have to demand anything from me? He wasn't wrong. Even after catching them being intimate for the umpteenth time, I still didn't react. In fact, when William asked me to buy food for Misty or do her homework, I did it without hesitation. Eventually, William's buddies lost interest in my lack of response. Some of them admired William's ability to keep control, while the rest eagerly started calling Misty sis-in-law. Misty covered her lips with the wide sleeve of her school uniform. She giggled until her whole body shook like a flower swaying in the breeze. "Don't call me that. William and I are just close friends, all right? Besides, my family's really strict. They don't allow me to date. And if I ever do date, it would have to be..." Her gaze fell on a tall figure in the distance. She bit her lip shyly. "Someone like the top student in our grade. That's the kind of guy worth it." Oscar was, without a doubt, number one in this mediocre, middle-of-nowhere county high school. He was the rare gem, everyone's golden boy. Even Misty had been beaten by over 40 points in the last mock exam. William's face instantly darkened. What good are grades? A poor kid like Oscar, even if he scores high, will just end up working for others after graduation. His mom was a mistress, and that's how he even got to school. Didn't you know? I didn't listen to the rest of the conversation. Instead, my eyes followed theirs to Oscar, who stood alone at the school gate, under the streetlight. He looked a bit lonely. What was he thinking about? That night, William, who hadn't paid me much attention in a long time, called me over. He lit a cigarette and sneered coldly. I seriously can't stand that arrogant look on Oscar's face. Just because he read a few books, he acts like he's better than everyone. "Laura, you'll help me, right? Seducing men is your specialty anyway." For some reason, William's words irritated me. I'm not someone with much pride, but at that moment, I wanted to say no. I didn't even know why, until the comments appeared again. And then I realized Oscar was the male lead in this world. Misty was the female lead. Oscar had just finished 2 weeks in the school's elite tutoring program. Tomorrow, he'd transfer back to our class and meet the female lead for the first time. Looking at the barrage of hateful comments directed at me, I didn't get angry. I just suddenly felt unwilling. So damn unwilling. Chapter 4. By the time I got home, I saw my dad standing at the doorway from a distance, eyes darting anxiously as soon as he spotted me. "Did William give you any money? Hurry up and hand it over. I need to turn things around while I still have a chance." "No." I dodged his reaching hand, but he yanked my backpack. "Still trying to lie to your old man? He used to treat you like a treasure. No way he didn't give you a single cent." He didn't believe me. He pulled open the zipper and dumped everything out onto the ground. My textbooks and stationery scattered all over. He rummaged through everything and only found a single 20 yuan note. TCH. He lit a cigarette in frustration, then kicked my shin without another word. Can't even hold on to a man. Can't squeeze out enough for a pack of smokes. What's the point of me raising a useless daughter like you? I bent down and brushed the shoe print off my pant leg. I don't even have one decent outfit. William's the kind of rich boy who gets tired of things fast. He's already sick of looking at my face. My dad paused, his eyes skimming over my worn-out school uniform. Then he pulled out 3 bills and shoved them at me, grumbling as he did. "Damn it, little debt magnet. If you can't get any more money, you might as well forget about school." I dragged my backpack into the room. Only after I heard his footsteps fade away did I feel safe enough to check the hidden pocket inside my bag. I had sewn it in myself, very well concealed. Inside was all the money I had, a bit of living expense my mom had left behind, some cash I'd saved from selling scrap, and a portion from William, adding in what my dad gave me today. I had 2,100 yuan and 80 cents. Was that enough? I wasn't sure, honestly, whether it was enough or not. This was all I could possibly gather in the short term. Chapter 5. At dusk, I quietly made my way to the science building. It was already getting dark. Only one classroom still had its lights on. The comments were flying fast. "Wait, seriously? The side character is that desperate? The male and female leads haven't even officially met yet and she's already trying to jump ahead? No. Please. This is disgusting. I'm a purity-obsessed fan. I do not approve of Laura making a move on the male lead. This is high school. What is she even planning to do? I swear I'm about to call the cops. I'd heard Oscar often studied late at school by himself, judging by the reaction in the comments. That much was true. When he saw me push open the door, Oscar looked slightly surprised. Laura? I took a deep breath, trying to shove my racing heart back into my chest. I stepped forward and dumped all the paper bills and even a few coins from my pocket onto his desk. Oscar, I'll pay you. Could you tutor me? Yes. I was unwilling to give up. I couldn't understand, why did Misty get to be the female lead, get into a top university, and have a shining, glorious future? I wasn't asking for much. I just wanted to use the college entrance exam as a way out. And Oscar was my only lifeline right now. The comments froze. Huh? Wait, so after all that tension, she's just asking for tutoring? I'm shocked. The side character sneaked into school in the dead of night just to ask the male lead for study help. What kind of plot twist is this? I don't believe it. Laura's totally faking it, just trying to lower the male lead's guard. Exactly. Give it a few days, and Oscar will realize Laura's empty little head is full of nothing but guys and money. Then he'll kick her out. Oscar didn't respond at first. I added nervously, if it's not enough, I can scrape together a bit more. That won't be necessary. My heart tightened. I panicked and grabbed his sleeve. Wait. We can work something out, right? I remembered the jade pendant around my neck. It was the only thing my mom had left me. I could sell it. I raised my hand to unbutton my shirt. The comments section exploded again. Oscar quickly reached out and pulled my jacket zipper all the way up with a sharp zip. Don't. Laura, I meant, you don't need to pay me. I'm willing to help you. Huh? Just like that. He agreed? The lower half of my face was now tucked inside my zipped-up jacket. I blinked, stunned. Honestly, I'd prepared a whole list of backup plans, bribes, threats, guilt trips. I hadn't even used one. Oscar glanced at me and let out a small laugh, turning his head slightly, the corners of his lips lifting just a bit. Come find me tomorrow, anytime. I'll be free. Chapter 6. The next day. When William saw I was still wearing the same school uniform, he only frowned slightly but didn't say anything. Then the comment section suddenly lit up. Here it comes, Misty's making her move on the male lead. Who would have thought Misty herself slipped the bracelet into the male lead's desk, then cried thief just to set the stage? Oscar has no choice but to admit he secretly likes her, or else risk being called a criminal. Isn't that straight up bullying? Bullying? Please, if you want soft and sweet girls, go read some fairy tale romance. These days, if you don't play smart, how do you land the top student male lead? I froze for a second and instinctively looked toward Oscar's desk. Sure enough, I spotted a bracelet tucked deep inside. The next second, Misty suddenly stood up, her tone urgent. That's strange. My bracelet's gone. Sorry, but has anyone seen it? William jumped right in, playing along effortlessly. I remember that bracelet was expensive, right? Worth a few thousand? Maybe someone stole it? His gaze quickly landed on Oscar, mocking and sarcastic. Wouldn't be surprising if it turned out to be one of the poor students in our class. Huh? William probably didn't know Misty's full plan. He was just targeting Oscar on instinct, and by chance, he hit the mark. William, don't say that about other classmates. Misty shot William a quick glare, then smiled gently. Maybe I'm just being forgetful and misplaced it. But still, could I trouble everyone to let me check your desks and bags? She walked toward the front rows near Oscar's seat, pretending to search carefully. She was about to reach his desk. I strolled over casually, just as she was about to check. I tripped, my left foot catching my right, and fell forward. I caught myself on the desk, using the motion to slide the bracelet smoothly into my palm without anyone noticing. Good. I clenched my fingers and exhaled quietly in relief. Back when I couldn't afford food and was nearly starving, I'd picked up a few questionable skills. Looks like they were still useful now. But the next second, I realized something was off with my right hand's landing spot. I had miscalculated. It was supposed to land on the chair. Instead, it landed on Oscar's thigh. Chapter 7. Oscar visibly froze. Sorry. I lost my balance. I forced myself to stay calm as I stood back up. It's okay. Oscar cleared his throat, visibly awkward. When I turned around, I met Misty's eyes, burning with fury and barely hidden jealousy. Laura, how can you just throw yourself at a guy like that? Can you have some self-respect? William, on the other hand, seemed quite pleased with my move and said, why bother getting mad at Laura? She's always like that, acting like she'll die without a man in her life. The strange looks from our classmates wandered all over me. I didn't need to guess, they were all here to watch me become a joke. The comments echoed the same. Knew it. Laura hasn't changed a bit. Already getting handsy with the male lead. Still think Misty's the bully? What a slap in the face. She just plays a little clever. Laura? She's shameless. Period. Can't she have just lost her balance for real? You all sound way too biased. Oh, please. On a flat cement classroom floor? I get it though. Been there. Done that. I used to be a pretentious coquette girl too. I didn't care. I lowered my head and faked a sad expression, quietly calculating how much Misty's bracelet might be worth while walking toward the door. After all, my reputation was already in the gutter. This wouldn't change much. But money? I was in desperate need of that. Then, a voice suddenly rang out from behind me. Laura didn't do anything wrong. She just stumbled. What you're doing now is slander. Misty hadn't expected Oscar to speak up for me. Her face went pale. No, Oscar. You just got back from the elite class. You don't know the full picture. Laura's grades are awful, and she's always goofing off in class. I just wanted to steer her in the right direction. Her voice grew smaller under Oscar's look of disgust. Poor grades aren't an excuse to demean others. From what I've seen, your so-called concern is nothing but bullying. With that, he didn't even glance at Misty again. He turned and grabbed me by the wrist, pulling me, still stunned, out of the classroom. I hadn't expected things to go like this. Misty's bracelet was still in my hand. I was in a rush to sell it. We didn't stop until we reached the end of the hallway. After a moment of hesitation, Oscar awkwardly patted my shoulder. The fierce energy he had earlier had completely faded. Laura, don't listen to them. I think you're doing fine. If you study seriously, your grades won't necessarily be worse than theirs. Oh, right. I scratched my head. Oscar let out a breath of relief. Then let's meet at the science building later. Bring some of your old test papers. What kind of plot twist is this? The story's breaking apart. Why is the male lead siding with the side character? And he's really going to tutor her? Ugh. Forget it. Let's not fight it. Misty's about to search Oscar's desk. The bracelet arc is coming. I'm just here for the moment he confesses in front of the whole class. But in the next second, the tone of the comments suddenly flipped. Wait, what's going on? The bracelet disappeared from Oscar's desk? That was supposed to be the iconic budding romance scene. WTF? It had to be the side character. That fall earlier? So fake. She must have stolen the bracelet right then. Seriously? She even steals the lead couple's token of affection? What a dirty move. I thought she bowed her head out of shame. Turns out she was smirking the whole time. So evil. Poor Misty searched forever and found nothing, and now the other students are mocking her. That bracelet wasn't cheap. Even Misty had to beg her family for days to get it. Isn't Laura afraid of karma? Watching the barrage, I couldn't help but curl up the corner of my mouth. Sorry, betraying money? That's just not in my nature. Feel free to call me again next time you need someone for a little activity like this. Chapter 8. I followed Oscar into an empty classroom in the science building. When I handed over the thick stack of tests, each with ugly, failing scores, I felt more than a little nervous. I'd asked others for help with studying before. One of them was the class rep, but he barely glanced at my papers before pushing them back and mumbling, "Forget it, Laura, you're just not cut out for academics." I didn't understand. I was only asking about a single problem. What did that have to do with whether I was cut out for studying? I asked him that. His face flushed red, then pale. Suddenly, he swiped my paper and pen off the desk. Fine. I'll say it straight. Laura, are you trying to squeeze money out of me now because you can't get anything from William? I stood there, stunned. I didn't. He cut me off. I'm not like that. I'm planning to get into college. I don't want anyone seeing me talking to someone like you. Then he left. I picked my test papers off the ground. My pen had snapped. Ink leaking out. Someone like me. What kind of person is that? After that, I never asked anyone else in class. The teachers didn't care much for bottom-of-the-class students like me either. After thinking it through, the only person I could turn to was William. His family had money, even if he didn't listen in class. Private tutors kept him up to speed. His grades were average, but still way better than mine. At first, he hated the way I held out test papers trying to act like a model student. But after enough times, he occasionally gave in and explained something. Just draw a helper line here. And the answer pops out. What? Still don't get it? Laura, you've got a pig's brain. I told you you're hopeless. Just accept it. Maybe I really am that stupid. Even after drawing the helper line, I'd sit at home staring at the problem into the middle of the night and still not solve it. That's why I was afraid. Afraid that Oscar would find out. Like the comments said, that I was just an empty-headed idiot. That he'd give up on me like the class rep. Like the teachers. Like William. If this didn't work out, I thought maybe I really would give up for good. Oscar silently flipped through all my test papers, then reached for a reference book beside him. My heart rose and fell with each page he turned. Finally, he spoke. Go through the example problems I've marked first. Then try redoing the ones you got wrong on your tests. He was willing to teach me. He didn't call me stupid. It felt like a boulder was lifted from my chest. My eyes filled with tears. I could only bury my head and focus on the questions. Oscar thought I was intimidated by the difficulty and said gently, "Don't worry. A lot of your wrong answers are from similar types of problems. It looks like a lot, but once you understand the pattern, they'll all make sense." I wiped my eyes and nodded hard. Sniff. He's so kind. He could have just told me I had a weak foundation. Chapter 9. Oscar's teaching method was really effective. Once I fully understood the example problems, I felt like I'd finally gotten the hang of this type of question. After doing over a dozen similar problems in a row, the next time I saw one, the solving process just floated up in my mind on its own. I didn't even have to think much. I couldn't contain my excitement and showed the finished problems to Oscar. He frowned slightly, staying silent for a while before finally saying, "Laura, what is it?" My nerves instantly tensed. Had I misunderstood everything? Were all those questions actually wrong? Oscar looked me in the eyes and said, "Next time they talk about you like that, you have to speak up for yourself. All right? If you don't, the rumors will start taking root in people's minds. Give it time, and even lies will start to sound like the truth." I blurted out, "I don't care." But did I really not care? Oscar kept his gaze on me without saying another word. I remembered so many things. The looks my classmates gave me, the constant whispering, William mentioning me like I was just a dog at his feet, the class rep's harsh words. All those things I told myself I didn't care about started to weigh down on me under Oscar's calm gaze, pressing so heavily on my shoulders I could hardly breathe. Did I really not care? I struggled for air and nodded. "I get it. Thank you." Oscar didn't push the subject further. He picked out the problems I got wrong and patiently walked me through each one. It wasn't until late at night that the one-on-one tutoring finally came to an end. I felt a little guilty. "Sorry for taking up so much of your time. I probably messed up your review schedule. Didn't I?" "It's fine." Oscar casually stuffed his materials into his bag. "This much time isn't going to change what college I get into. At most, I'll just miss out on being the top scorer." I clenched my fists quietly. Is that how top students talk? So smug, kind of annoying. It was already completely dark outside, even though I tried to turn him down repeatedly. Oscar still insisted on walking me to a spot not far from my house. Before we parted, he handed me the reference book from earlier. "Here, Laura, I don't need this one anymore. You can use it." At that moment, the comment section was full of snark. Lies, lies, lies. He totally went to 3 different bookstores just to get that for her. Like he needs a basic study guide at his level. Sorry, but I'm officially in too deep. A genius male lead and a dumb but hardworking side girl? I'm shipping it. We're all here anyway, might as well choose a ship, right? Seriously? You people ship everything. Y'all got weird taste. Let them be. At least Laura hasn't done anything wrong so far, way better than that fake innocent bully. Misty. So that's what this is. Huh. I took the book and smiled with squinted eyes. Thanks, but this book's practically brand new. I was starting to think a certain top student bought it just for me. Oscar chuckled lowly. And if I did, would you be more motivated to do the problems? I thought for a moment, then joked. Maybe. See you, Oscar. Oscar watched as I walked farther and farther away. After a long pause, he finally smiled into the night and said softly, "See you tomorrow." Chapter 10. Oscar spent the next half-month tutoring me on the basics. I studied like my life depended on it, so hard I barely noticed the strange looks people threw my way. Until one day, Misty pulled the same old trick. She lazily tossed her workbook onto my desk. "Laura, help me finish today's homework, will you?" Without even thinking, I pushed it right back. The book dropped to the floor. "Why? Can't you do it yourself?" Misty was stunned. Her eyes instantly welled up with tears. "No, Laura, you misunderstood. The questions today are way too simple. Doing them would be a waste of time for me. But for you, they're just right to reinforce your basics." A couple of boys nearby chimed in to stir the pot. "Laura, don't be ungrateful. Misty's just trying to help you." "Yeah, I wish I had someone to tutor me like that." The one laughing the loudest among them was the class rep. I picked up the workbook and shoved it in front of him. "Great. Then you do it for her." The laughter died instantly. The class rep's face slowly turned red. "Why should I do it? Didn't you say you wanted tutoring?" I said calmly. "Or could it be, you don't actually mean it, you just think sucking up to Misty makes you feel superior? Like some kind of model student?" I clapped my hands slowly and said flatly, "Wow, you're so noble and elite, totally different from a loser like me." The classroom fell completely silent. The class rep stammered for a bit, then stood up with a dark face and stormed off. Misty backed down too. Whispers started spreading around me. "What's up with Laura today? Did she eat gunpowder or something?" "I bet it's jealousy. Misty's been getting close to William." "Doesn't seem like it. Though, Laura hasn't even looked William's way all week." I put in my earbuds and focused on the problem in front of me. There was only 1 week left before the next round of mock exams. I wanted to use it to see how much I had really improved. So, I had to finish reviewing all the basic question types before then and be sure I wouldn't get a single one wrong. Oscar had said, if I could move into the top 500 in the rankings, he'd bring me a gift. I was really looking forward to it. Chapter 11. As the bell rang, I gathered a few of my study books, planning to stop by the school shop. My dad gave me, at most, 200 to 300 yuan a month for meals, even with the cheapest options in the cafeteria. It was barely enough. I also wanted to save a little, which made things even tighter. Back then, I used to run home during dinner break to hurriedly cook something before rushing back for evening study sessions. But now, that wasn't an option. I couldn't afford to waste time on things like that anymore. To free up more time for problem solving, I started buying the cheapest biscuits and water from the school shop. On average, a dinner cost me about 3 yuan. Very economical. But just as I stepped out of the school building today, someone blocked my way. Misty stood with her arms crossed, a faint smirk on her lips. Behind her were a few guys who looked like street thugs. "Laura, I didn't want to make things difficult for you, but why are you so stubborn? Do I have to teach you a lesson myself before you finally learn your place?" The comments appeared. Here comes the unhinged female lead going full power. I love it. Nothing beats a ruthless queen who'll do anything to win. Wow, that commenter definitely deserves a toxic girlfriend. What more do you people want? Laura made the first move on the guy. Misty's just taking appropriate countermeasures. Please, God, can we show Laura a little mercy? All she wants is to study. Misty suddenly shoved me hard. I slammed into the rough concrete wall, my back scraped and bleeding, burning with pain, gritting my teeth. I said helplessly, "What are you trying to do to me? Did you actually bring knives to school?" Misty sneered. "For someone like you? As if you're worth it." "Oh, so, no knives?" "Well, I brought one." I reached into my bag and drew out a folding knife. My dad had been involved in shady stuff for years. If I didn't carry something for protection, I wouldn't dare step outside. Misty's expression changed instantly. I gave her a smile. "Sorry, I didn't hear you just now. What was it you wanted to teach me again?" "You." "Wait, don't come any closer." Misty backed away step by step. Her face twisted as if she'd swallowed a fly. I watched her for a while, entertained. Then I got bored and was about to put the knife away and leave. Suddenly, I heard hurried footsteps behind me, and a familiar voice, filled with concern. "Laura!" I turned instinctively, but everything went black. My strength drained from my body, and I collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. And just before my consciousness faded, I fell into a pair of arms that made me feel safe. Chapter 12. When I came to, something felt off. I slowly cracked one eye open to assess the situation. The infirmary was quiet. Oscar sat nearby, and on a porcelain plate beside him were several neatly sliced apple bunnies. Strange. Everything looked peaceful, no threat in sight. I turned to the comment feed to get a sense of what had happened. "I'm dying." Laura passed out from low blood sugar at the perfect moment. The male lead walked in right as she went pale and collapsed. Poor guy was scared out of his mind. And Misty, man, she looked like she swallowed a cactus, crying and yelling. "Stop faking. You manipulative, pretentious, coquette bitch. Get up already." Even though she was the one being threatened with a knife by Laura a second ago, now everyone's blaming her. Misty didn't even do anything this time. Ha 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 ha. Wait, I'm supposed to be rooting for the main couple. Why am I laughing with the side character stance? I almost burst out laughing too. But when I looked up again, I accidentally locked eyes with Oscar. "You're awake." His voice was calm. I suddenly felt guilty and answered with a small nod. Oscar raised the tray table and, like pulling off a magic trick, brought out a takeout container of sweet porridge and a cup of honey water from the cafeteria. Only after setting everything in place did he finally speak. Unhurried. "How long's it been since you had a proper meal?" My heart skipped. I mumbled through a spoonful of porridge. "I have been eating. I had biscuits." "That doesn't count." I pulled a face and buried my head lower and lower. "Maybe 10 days or so." Oscar said nothing, so I added quietly. "I saw some girls who were watching their figure do the same. I thought it was okay." He scoffed. "You're already skin and bones. What are you trying to copy?" "I'm tutoring you so you can pass your exams, not so you can starve yourself unconscious." I had no defense. I could only mutter an awkward, "Sorry." Oscar looked at me, then sighed in frustration. "Fine. I'll forgive you, but only if you eat in the cafeteria with me from now on. I'll keep an eye on you." This time, I didn't agree, because the truth was I really needed money. If I didn't have enough to cover transportation and tuition, even if I got into college, I might not be able to go at all. But I didn't know how to say any of that to Oscar. He and I were different. With grades like his, he probably never had to worry about things like that. The tiny infirmary suddenly felt stiflingly silent. I opened my mouth, trying to think of something to say, but Oscar moved first. He placed the porcelain plate in front of me, where a row of bunny-shaped apple slices stared blankly up at me. "Forget the cafeteria. The food there isn't even that nutritious. After class tomorrow, just come find me at the science building." Chapter 13. Even though I had mentally prepared myself for it, I was still stunned when I saw Oscar carrying a 4-layer thermal food container. He opened it and laid out 3 dishes and a soup. The aroma instantly filled the whole classroom. I swallowed hard, barely able to speak. These. "You didn't make all of this yourself, did you?" Oscar shook his head and handed me a bowl and chopsticks. "I'm not that good. My mom cooked it. I just prepped the ingredients and helped out." I nodded, picked up a piece of rib, and took a bite. The moment the flavor hit my tongue, I practically wanted to chew the chopsticks too. Honestly, I wasn't good at cooking. Every time I made food for myself, it was either scrambled eggs with tomatoes, or tomatoes with scrambled eggs, just switching the order and pretending it was different. To eat something genuinely delicious, healthy, and home-cooked for once, I was nearly moved to tears. "Your mom's cooking is amazing. Does she happen to need a daughter?" "I'm not very smart, but I really like eating." Oscar let out a soft laugh. "My mom used to be the head chef at a small diner. She still does orders for some regulars. Whatever ingredients are left over, we get to eat." It was the first time Oscar had ever mentioned his family. I understood. He was only telling me this to make me feel more comfortable accepting the food. I sipped the soup in small gulps. Warmth spread through my chest and limbs. I remembered what William used to say, nonsense from a mouth that never said anything decent. Turns out it really was just slander. Oscar's mom was clearly an incredible cook. From that day on, I ate lunch and dinner with Oscar every day. Then we studied together late into the night. The joint exams were drawing closer by the day. Sometimes I would get frustrated, stuck on problems I couldn't solve. I knew stressing out wouldn't help, but I couldn't stop myself from asking Oscar if I was learning too slowly. At those times, he would look into my eyes and say, "Knowledge doesn't betray you, Laura, even if it takes you more effort than others. Once you learn something, it's yours. You'll get the same score they do. And to me, it doesn't even seem like you're learning slower. You just go deeper. The methods I've taught you, you've mastered all of them, haven't you?" Oscar was the top student in our entire grade. If he said I could learn, then I believed I could. Chapter 14. Before I knew it, the day of the joint exam had arrived. I entered the school gate early, and the first person I ran into was William. He was leaning against a wall, his expression unreadable, and crooked a finger at me. "Come here. I told you to seduce Oscar, but I didn't say you could spend all your time clinging to him, did I?" His contemptuous gaze stabbed into me once again. "TSK, Laura, are you really that desperate? As long as it's a man, you'll throw yourself at him, huh?" Once upon a time, I'd heard words like that dozens of times without blinking, but now, they grated on me. Once you hear them, really hear them, you can't unhear them again. I said, "William, my life has nothing to do with you. Please learn to speak to me with some basic respect." William narrowed his eyes. I continued, "I already did what I promised. There's nothing left between us. From now on, stay out of my life." I turned to leave. I wanted to go over my mistakes one more time before the exam started. But William grabbed my wrist. Hard enough to hurt. His voice turned cold and nasty. "Getting cocky now, huh? Playing hard to get with me, Laura?" The comment feed popped up. Hold on. Can someone deal with this William guy already? He's clearly living in some kind of delusion. William is dangerously close to being a full-on psychopath, and already miles away from being a normal person. I can't take it anymore. I'll pitch in $10 to crowdfund someone slapping him. Same here. I couldn't take it anymore either. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Playing games? You still think this is fun? William, you're honestly just pathetic. I swore under my breath as I walked away. William stood there, hands still on his cheek, frozen in disbelief. To him, Laura had always been the obedient, well-behaved one. When had that changed? He hadn't figured it out yet when he saw that same figure turn and come jogging back. For some reason, he felt a faint sense of relief. What? Changed your mind already? I held out my hand. William, I've been running errands and doing homework for you and Misty all this time, even if it wasn't worth much. I did put in the work. Time to pay up. What did you say? TSK. I said, pay me. 5 minutes later, I walked away, satisfied and stuffing the last of William's cash into my pocket. Chapter 15. The exam went more smoothly than I had expected. A few days later, when the results were released, I was the first to squeeze up to the teacher's desk and scan the list for my name. Laura, rank 425. I did it. I let out a long breath of relief, a smile spreading across my face before I could stop it. As I headed toward the science building, I felt so light I was nearly skipping, until, by chance, I glanced at the noisy wave of comments flying past my vision. What the hell? I finally came around to shipping the side character with the male lead. And now the main girl's taking the spotlight again? Face it, male leads are written to fall in love with the female lead. Sooner or later, he was bound to be drawn to her. So what was Laura then? What were all those nights of studying together worth? Too bad. Today he's studying with Laura. Tomorrow it could be someone else. You can have 1,000 side characters, but there's only one main heroine. What does that mean? The comments kept flashing across my eyes. My chest tightened. I reached for the door to push it open, but then Misty's chirping voice came from inside first. I know you pity her, but she's not from our world, Oscar. And come on, just because she can cheat now doesn't mean she'll be able to cheat on the college entrance exam. Oscar's voice was low. I couldn't make it out. But Misty's cheerful tone rang out loud and clear. See? Isn't that better? You've been protecting Laura all this time. But even I get jealous. You know? Whatever. Misty the magnanimous. Forgive you. So it's settled. Tomorrow's our date. And you better make it up to me, okay? This time, I clearly heard Oscar's reply. Fine, whatever you want. In that moment, something inside me crumbled. I suddenly felt cold. I just wanted to go home. She earned that score herself. Oscar taught her every single concept. And now even he doesn't believe in her? Laura, run. Let them be endgame or whatever. In a daze, I left the school grounds and wandered down the road toward home. At some point, it started drizzling, but I didn't even feel it. I just kept walking forward. By the time I got home, I was soaked through. And there, standing at my front door, was the last person I expected. William stood blocking my path, frowning. Laura, we need to talk. Wait, why are you soaking wet? Move. My voice was flat. At that moment, I had zero patience for him. I pushed past without hesitation, but William wouldn't let it go. He followed me, grabbing my shoulders. Wait, I really need to talk to you. That day, when you said, wait, are you crying? He froze. Stunned, his fingers moved instinctively toward my face. But I smacked his hand away, hard. I said move. Can't you understand plain words? I wiped my face roughly, shoved past him, and slammed the door behind me, locking it tight. Chapter 16. Back home. I didn't plan on doing anything in particular. I just wanted to be alone for a while. Just a little while. 5 minutes later, I pulled out my test papers and started working on problems again. There's nothing you can't get through, as long as you hold on tightly to the future. That's the only thing that truly belongs to me. The problems I solve right won't betray me. Everything else doesn't matter. Why is this happening? This was supposed to be a redemption arc, and now it's falling apart. Honestly, Misty wasn't wrong. Laura and Oscar really aren't from the same world. Something was bound to break. Let's be real, a side character with bad grades and a straight-A male lead? Even if she's redeemed, is he supposed to spend his whole life saving her? Snap. My pencil lead broke. I sighed and replaced it with a fresh piece. To be fair, my grades hadn't always been this bad. Back in my first year of high school, my mom asked for a divorce. Suddenly, the burden of grocery bills and daily life fell on me. I learned to shop, cook, and haggle over a few cents at the market. If I didn't do those things, I'd starve. Time and energy slipped away into survival. I spent whole days figuring out how to stretch a single yuan into two. My study time grew shorter and shorter. I started dozing off in class. No matter how hard I pinched myself, I couldn't stay awake. Liberal arts subjects I could make up on my own, but miss half a math class. And it might as well have been in another language. Later, my dad's gambling got worse. He heard there was a rich kid in my class, and forced me to cozy up to William. If I didn't bring home cash, I got beaten. I skipped class with William, cut school, clumsily tried to please him. He remained polished and unbothered, carried on the shoulders of his parents, with endless safety nets behind him. My life, meanwhile, was rotting from the inside out. I'd never told anyone these things. Just like with math, no matter how many steps you get right, if your final answer is wrong, it's still wrong. Life works the same way. Excuses don't change the result. A mistake is a mistake. The only thing I can do is keep moving forward. Chapter 17. The next day, I went to the empty classroom in the science building like usual. Oscar looked a little apologetic. Sorry, I've got something to do later today. I won't be able to study with you. I knew. Today was the day he was going on that date with Misty. A dull ache bloomed in my chest, but I simply nodded. Oscar tried to lighten the mood. I saw your results for the mock exam. You've made great progress. Want to guess what your reward is? I smiled. No need. Studying is my own responsibility. You've already helped me so much. I should be the one thanking you. Oscar hesitated. Really? But I remember how much you were looking forward to your gift. I nodded again and gently pushed him toward the door. All right. All right. Didn't you say you had plans? Go on. Then, he walked away, looking back at me 3 times before he finally left. From that day on, we still studied together. We recited vocabulary, solved problems side by side. It felt like nothing had changed. But every time our hands accidentally brushed while flipping pages, I would quietly pull away. Oscar seemed to notice the distance I was putting between us, but he didn't say anything. We silently agreed to ignore the shift between us. And yet, my studies weren't affected by any of it. First mock exam, second mock, countless practice tests. My scores wavered, but my ranking kept climbing. By the end of the second round of review, I had steadily passed the university cutoff line. It wasn't an impressive score, but it was the first time I genuinely felt I was improving. After memorizing the final vocabulary list, I could barely keep my eyes open. I rolled onto the bed, ready to sleep, but the door suddenly slammed open. My dad stood there, reeking of alcohol, slurring curses I couldn't even understand. 4 months. I had been leaving for school at dawn and returning just before midnight. We hardly crossed paths. Honestly, I'd almost forgotten I had a father like this. "Get out," I said, trying my best to stay calm. But he exploded in rage. "You ungrateful brat. I raised you, spent all this money on you, and this is how you talk to your father? Come here, let me remind you who's in charge in this house." He raised his hand to hit me. I pulled a knife out from under my pillow and held it to my chest, staring him down. There were only a few days left before the college entrance exam. If it came down to all or nothing, then so be it. I wasn't afraid. He faltered, stepping back a few paces. Embarrassed, he locked my door from the outside. "Damn it, you think you've grown wings just 'cause you've read a few books? Fine, stay in there. Let's see if that tempers your attitude. I'll let you out when I feel like it." Then he was gone. I hadn't meant to cry, but the tears came anyway. So I pulled out my papers again. I'd grown used to doing practice problems when I felt like crap. It was the only thing that made my time feel like it wasn't wasted. I wrote and eventually dozed off with the pen still in my hand. When I woke up, it was already hours past the time I usually left for school. The door was still locked. I dug out my ID and a few small belongings, taped them to my waist. I had made up my mind. If my dad opened that door, I'd stab him and run, and never come back. By noon, I heard loud noises from outside. I gripped the knife tightly, holding my breath. Then, through the door, I heard a voice, urgent and achingly familiar. "Laura, it's me. Are you in there?" I froze. Then all at once, every part of me relaxed. The strength in my hand gave out. The knife slipped to the floor. "I'm here, Oscar. I'm here." The next second, the door was forced open. Oscar caught me as I collapsed into his arms and said, "Come with me." Chapter 18. Oscar took me to his home. It was a modest apartment, a little old in terms of decor, but very tidy and well-kept. Auntie Lee, seeing how pale I looked, lovingly made a big pot of stewed chicken soup. "Sweet child, take your time and drink it. I may not have much to offer, but there will always be food here for you. Understand?" I lowered my head and nodded. Tears dropped into the bowl, one by one. "Laura, don't go back to that place. Just stay here for now, as long as you don't mind. You're welcome to stay as long as you need." I shook my head. "Thank you, but I really don't want to trouble you or Oscar." "Oh, nonsense. You're not troubling anyone." She turned and called over her shoulder. "Oscar, did you finish getting the spare room ready?" "All done." Oscar came out and looked at me. "At least until the college entrance exam, stay here and focus on studying." "That's right. The exam's too important. You need a proper place to stay. Don't you? We'll deal with everything else afterward." I couldn't argue with that. I didn't have the time or energy to waste on anything outside of that one goal. So, under Auntie Lee's warm insistence, I ended up moving into the Sia household. That evening, after saying goodnight to Auntie Lee, I was just about to head back to memorize some vocabulary when I ran into Oscar getting a glass of water. I was used to seeing him in his stiff school uniform, so seeing him in a plain white t-shirt and casual pants was a little much. I glanced once, then immediately looked away and tried to slip past. But Oscar spoke up first. "Did I do something wrong?" I froze where I stood. Oscar spoke slowly, every word filled with hesitation and a hint of bitterness. "Laura, Can you please stop pushing me away? I hadn't meant to say anything, but in that moment, reason collapsed. It had been months, and I still felt wronged, deeply wronged. I clutched Oscar's shirt, voice trembling. I didn't cheat. Oscar, why didn't you believe me? I thought I could brush it off, but then Oscar saved me again. I couldn't forget it. He froze, then gently patted my back as I sobbed. I choked out more words. I heard everything you said with Misty. Maybe we really aren't from the same world. And maybe that's why I don't understand. But if you didn't believe me, why did you keep saving me? The more I said, the worse I felt. I let go of him and turned to leave. Forget it. I'm still grateful to you. But let's just leave it at that. Wait. Oscar grabbed my wrist, his next words coming out in a rush. It's not what you think. That day, Misty came to me, threatening to report you. I knew you didn't cheat, but your time is precious, and I didn't want her wasting even a minute of it. So I agreed to her terms, just to keep her from bothering you again. Laura, I never stopped believing in you. I blinked, stunned. I still read as I stared at him. Her condition was a date with you. You went, didn't you? No. Oscar coughed awkwardly. I sent my mom instead. Misty said something awful, and my mom ended up slapping her. I was completely stunned. Auntie Lee? Gentle, kind Auntie Lee? She hit someone? No wonder Misty hadn't shown up at school for days afterward, and when she finally did, she wore a mask and kept far, far away from me. So that's what happened. She got smacked. Oscar shook his head, smiling with helpless resignation. So that's what you thought. I figured you were avoiding me on purpose because you realized I. He trailed off mid-sentence. You what? I asked, puzzled. It's nothing. Let's talk after the entrance exam. The comments chimed in again, full of teasing energy. Oh ho ho. Realized I what? So mysterious. We'll never guess. This is too sweet. I don't even know what reality is anymore. My secret ship has officially been resurrected. Everyone passing by. Please leave one punch for Misty. Thank you. Oscar suddenly let out a quiet laugh. Still want your gift? Yes, I said immediately. He went into his room and came back with a small plush teddy bear, turning his face away shyly, the tips of his ears turning visibly red. He mumbled, I saw it in a store and kept thinking, it looked just like you. Just as sweet. The gift that had been delayed for months finally landed in my hands. Time kept moving forward, but the feeling in my heart only grew stronger with each passing day. Chapter 19. On the day of the college entrance exam, Auntie Lee gave both Oscar and me a top scorer cookie and wore a bright red sheep out to escort us to the exam hall. I wasn't nervous. I stayed calm and completed every paper steadily. After the final subject, as I walked out of the exam center, I caught a glimpse of my father's figure in the crowd. I didn't know what brought him there, or what he was feeling, but I didn't care. For a long time going forward, our lives wouldn't intersect again. William came to see me one more time after that. At the time, I was helping Auntie Lee at her food stall. For once, he looked serious. Laura, I've thought things through. Thought what through? I asked, confused. You were mad because of me and Misty, right? When I came to see you that day, you were crying. I answered firmly. No, but William ignored me. I've reflected on it. I admit, it was my fault. I went too far. But now, I've broken things off with Misty. So, he looked up at me. Would you give me another chance? I was even firmer this time. No, William, I never liked you, not before, and I never will. I stayed with you for the money. I admit I was wrong. But you weren't exactly innocent either. So let's call it even. William froze. His face turned deathly pale. Then I remembered something else and added. You used to spread rumors that Auntie Lee was a mistress. I hope you stop saying things like that. She's a good person, and she's always worked hard. If you don't have proof, don't just repeat gossip. I sighed and turned around, only to find Auntie Lee standing behind me, holding a tray of tea. Auntie Lee, just as I was about to explain something, there was a dull thud behind me. William had fainted. Everything descended into chaos. After a flurry of movement and finally getting William into an ambulance, I at last had a quiet moment alone with Auntie Lee. But she spoke first. "Laura, thank you." Warmth bloomed in my chest. I hugged her tightly. She told me that, years ago, she had made a mistake. For years into her marriage, she discovered her husband already had a wife and child in another city. He'd used someone else's identity to register their marriage. When the truth came out, Auntie Lee filed for divorce immediately and raised Oscar on her own. Even so, she endured years of gossip. She lost her job. Even young Oscar was often pointed at and insulted on the street. I suddenly remembered something Oscar had once said to me. "Next time they slander you, you have to fight back. If you don't speak up, the rumors will take root, and over time, even lies will start to sound like truth." So that's what he meant. I sniffled, tears stinging my eyes as I said, "Auntie Lee, none of it was your fault. You were a victim, too. From now on, I'll face everything with you and Oscar. Things will get better." Her eyes grew wet. "Laura, I really do like you a lot. How about becoming my goddaughter?" Tears welled up again. I hugged her tightly, nodding over and over, calling her mom through sobs. Oscar had just returned from tutoring and stood frozen in the doorway, deep in thought. "Mom, maybe you should reconsider?" Chapter 20. The college entrance exam results finally came out. As expected, Oscar lived up to everyone's hopes. He became the top scorer in the city and got into a top-tier university. As for me, I was admitted to a second-tier university in Beijing, and honestly, I was satisfied. There were so many nights and days I had once wasted. It was impossible to make up for them with just one semester of hard work in senior year. But through the college entrance exam, I managed to leave my father, to leave the small town behind. That alone meant I had fulfilled my biggest wish. Much later, I heard someone mention in passing that Misty had been caught cheating during the exam. After transferring to our school, she had always looked down on the quality of the teachers. Instead of studying, she spent her days messing around with William, and her grades had steadily gone downhill. To maintain her top student image, she had quietly started using her phone to cheat during exams. She got nervous about getting caught during the national exam, and tried to gamble one last time. The outcome was obvious: she lost. When I heard about it, I found it ridiculous. The same person who once claimed, righteously, that she wanted to report me for cheating, turned out to be the one who'd been cheating all along. She had 1,000 smooth paths ahead of her, and yet she chose the one that would destroy her. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. These days, I'm busy working part-time jobs to save up for tuition, and also busy being in love with Oscar. We got together so naturally, like it was always meant to happen. One evening, while walking home side by side, I was in a teasing mood and decided to mess with him. "By the way," I said, "didn't you once say there was something you wanted to tell me, but only after the exams?" Oscar smiled. "You already know." "I do?" I feigned confusion. "Pretty sure I don't." He leaned in and gently placed a kiss on my forehead. "I like you, Laura. I really like you." This was going to be a good summer. A very, very good summer. The sunlight was warm and brilliant, and the road ahead was wide open. Even if life had once felt like a dark, windowless room, it wouldn't stop me from writing the most beautiful poem I could imagine. Story 2. Chapter 1. My fiancé still loves his ex-wife, who he divorced years ago, but that hasn't stopped him from pursuing me. He thinks I'm clueless, but I know everything. Last month, he claimed to be on a business trip for a week, but he actually took his ever-childish ex-wife to Shanghai Disneyland. When he returned, he acted as if nothing had happened, discussing marriage plans with me as if all was normal. Little does he know, ever since I found out about his ongoing attachment to his ex-wife Sophia, I've been planning not to go through with the wedding. I met Leo through a matchmaking arrangement set up by Sandra, a friend of my parents. She told them that Leo was a divorced, childless high-level executive, a real white-collar professional. My parents were thrilled by this prospect and had the matchmaker bring him over immediately. Despite his divorce, Leo's refined demeanor and gentlemanly manners won them over instantly. They couldn't wait for us to get married. I was indifferent about the arranged meeting, but Leo charmed my parents, and I found myself warming up to him, thinking that maybe having such a harmonious family life wouldn't be so bad after all. I've kept Leo's lingering ties with his ex-wife secret from my parents, who still hold him in high regard. When I got home from work, my dad looked behind me, obviously disappointed. Why didn't you bring Leo home for dinner? As I took off my shoes, I explained. He has his job, and I have mine. We couldn't coordinate our schedules today. On Sunday, discuss with Leo about inviting his parents over so we can talk about your wedding. My dad suggested. Okay, I will. I replied as I grabbed my bag and headed toward my room. Then asked casually, Dad, why did Sandra suddenly think to set me up? He answered, I mentioned to her that you were a high-level executive at Boat, and she knew someone's son who would be perfect for you. Marcia, Leo is a good man. Don't be too picky, my mom said as she came out of the kitchen with 2 dishes. At your age, and with your workaholic tendencies, how else are you going to get married if not through matchmaking? I'm not being picky. We're just getting to know each other, I said somewhat distractedly during dinner. Why did Sandra rush to set me up with someone as soon as she heard I work at Boat? Tomorrow, I'll go and ask her about it. You both should get along fine. I think Leo is quite a catch, my dad added. I nodded automatically, then seized the opportunity to bring up, oh, by the way, parents, Leo has a business trip this week, and I do too. Coincidentally on the same flight. We'll come over for dinner once we're back. When you get married, you should quit your job, my mom declared authoritatively. I gave no confirmation or denial. This marriage is not happening, and I'm not planning to quit my job. The next day, I went looking for Sandra, only to find out she had gone to Shanghai. What a coincidence. I overheard Sandra's neighbor chatting with someone else. Sandra said her son works at a big company, Boat, and he makes tens of thousands a month. Isn't that so? And last month, her son took her to Shanghai to see his wife and grandson. I caught their conversation but didn't quite grasp all of it. It seems Sandra went to reunite with her son, daughter-in-law, and grandson. I won't disturb her now. I'll go to Shanghai to take care of the business I have planned. Chapter 2. Sophia was there with a little boy, a few years old. She wasn't strikingly beautiful, but she had a mature charm that made her likable. She was playing bumper cars with the little boy. I searched for Leo nearby, and to avoid being recognized, I wore a blonde wig and large sunglasses to cover my face, and dressed in newly bought Western-style clothing. After a while, I finally found Sandra sitting under an umbrella in a shaded spot. Leo was at a nearby snack bar buying 2 ice cream cones. He walked over and naturally handed one to Sandra, and I quickly snapped a photo with my phone. I took the umbrella, found a spot near them in the shade, sat down, and turned on my phone's recorder. Leo's voice came through. Mom, if I marry Marcia, she'll eventually find out about our relationship. Just don't let her know, right? I've already checked. Boat values its executives highly. As long as Marcia recommends you, there won't be any problem getting into Boat, Sandra replied. I lay under the umbrella, resting with my eyes closed. Sophia and the little boy, after a round of games, walked over. Mom, Leo, let's play the next game together. Lucas has been looking forward to playing with you, she said. Daddy, the little boy, called Lucas, said sweetly. Leo fondly agreed. Lucas, good boy, such a sweet family. Anyone would envy them. It just makes you wonder what Sophia's husband would think knowing his son has another dad. I sent the photo of Sophia and her son to my friend Eric, asking him to contact Sophia's husband as soon as possible. I also sent over Sophia's address and her current location. The words of Sandra's neighbor echoed in my ears. Sandra went to Shanghai to reunite with her son, daughter-in-law, and grandson. I initially thought Sandra's reunion was none of my business, but I couldn't help myself and sent a message to my dad. Dad, did you know Sandra is Leo's mom? My dad immediately replied to my WeChat message. How is that possible? Sandra is a lonely old woman with no children. Maybe Leo is her godson. Well, godson could be an explanation. I sent him another message. Then why don't you call Sandra and ask her to come over for dinner? Thinking I wanted to thank Sandra for introducing me to someone, my dad agreed without hesitation. Sandra's phone rang, and she answered cheerfully. Nestor, I'm out of town right now. I joined a seniors tour group. and I'll be away for a week. You said Marcia invited me over for dinner? Okay. I'll come by after my trip. Sandra and Leo schemed together to deceive me. If they succeeded, that would be my fault for being gullible, but they should never have deceived my parents. My parents have loved each other their entire lives, and they only had one child because they followed the government's one-child policy. Their biggest wish now is to see me get married. Maybe after hanging up, Sandra casually said, Marcia's family is so naive. They'll never find out about our relationship. And you don't even look like me. I thought about it and then sent the information about Sandra and Leo to my friend Eric, asking him to investigate their relationship. Eric suggested that I get strands of their hair, and he would take care of the rest. Chapter 3. Mom. I'm bleeding from the nose. Lucas yelled. Leo, Sandra, and Sophia all scrambled to respond. How did you start bleeding? Quick, wipe it off. Let's go to the hospital. I noticed they discarded a bloodied tissue on the ground, and for the first time in my life, I was thankful for someone's lack of manners. The three adults hurriedly took Lucas away, and I grabbed a plastic bag to pick up the tissue. I followed them from a distance, watching as they got into a taxi. I hailed one myself and immediately called Eric. Can you locate Sophia's husband? He replied regretfully. He's out of town, even with the location. He can't get here. Why are you suddenly so keen on catching someone else's affair? I could hear his curiosity, and somewhat helplessly replied, It's also for myself. Someone introduced this woman's ex-husband to me. My parents really like him and are pushing us to get married. This man meets up with his ex-wife and son in Shanghai for a week every month during his business trips. Damn. Wait. I can make the current cuckold rush home, Eric said before hanging up quickly. In the taxi, I changed into a different colored wig but didn't change my clothes. I continued following the trio to the hospital. The pediatric department was crowded, and Lucas continued to bleed, discarding several bloodied tissues. I captured a photo of Sandra, Leo, and Sophia bustling around Lucas and sent it to my friend. I'm heading home. In a few days, I'll send you their hair and the kids' blood sample. Watching any further would only upset me, so I continued with my business trip. When I got back, my dad pulled me aside on the balcony. You said Leo is Sandra's son. You have proof, right? Didn't you distrust me before? Why suddenly ask about this? I looked at my dad in surprise, noticing how much more haggard he appeared than just a few days ago, with deep dark circles that spoke of his recent stress. Dad rubbed his forehead and said, We've known Sandra for so many years, and she never mentioned setting you up with someone. Suddenly, after finding out where you work, she introduces someone with such good credentials. Although your mother and I hope you'll marry soon, we don't want to push you into something bad. I reassured him. Don't worry. I have the ability to discern. If I think it's appropriate, I'll continue with him. If not, you shouldn't have high expectations. That's true. How could someone perfect just appear out of nowhere without any effort? My dad said, sounding even more disheartened. Leo really seems quite good. Is Leo just seemingly good? His public demeanor is practically perfect. If my best friend hadn't accidentally witnessed that harmonious and happy family scene at Disney, I wouldn't have known that Leo still loves his ex-wife Sophia and is only interested in my status. Just relax, Mom and Dad. It'll be the same as before. If it's not suitable, I'll be the one to suggest breaking up, I said, thinking that I must present irrefutable evidence to Leo to prevent him from pestering me. My mom looked at me with eyes full of guilt. That's right. Just watch a little longer. Maybe he's not so bad, right? Mom hadn't given up on Leo yet, practically already viewing him as her son-in-law. I merely smiled lightly. Non-committal. Chapter 4. I immediately picked up my phone and arranged a 1-month European tour for my parents, planning to send them off once Sandra came over for dinner. I hadn't let slip a single word in advance. Blind dating is such an unreliable affair. It's essentially forcing two strangers together and hoping sparks fly. True to her word, Sandra arrived on time. I offered her a necklace to try on. While helping her put it on, I managed to pluck a couple of hairs with the roots. Oh dear. This necklace doesn't seem to fit. I can't get it to clasp. I'll switch it out next time. Sandra's greedy gaze subtly swept over the necklace in my hand, expressing a veiled regret. I appreciate the thought. dear. No need to go to any expense. I wasn't planning on spending anything. I just muttered something noncommittal and returned to my room. I carefully wrapped the 2 hairs and placed them with the blood-stained tissue. Now, I just needed Leo's hair, Aunt Sandra. Next time you join a travel group, take my parents with you. They're so bored at home. And since you're all old friends, it'll be more fun. And you can look after each other. How forgetful of me. How did I not think of that? Sandra pretended as if the idea had just occurred to her. Nestor, next time the 3 of us should join a group. It's better to have acquaintances to talk to. Otherwise, being with strangers is just uncomfortable. I'm not very keen on going out. My dad declined. He liked fishing and could spend a whole day at it. Sandra then said to my mom, once Marcia gets married, you 2 can relax. That's for sure. My mom agreed easily. This child is all about work. I've been looking forward to her getting married. Look at people her age. Their kids are already fetching soy sauce. Wasn't Leo's son, born post-divorce, already in kindergarten and literally able to fetch soy sauce? Young people have their pursuits. Leo is a workaholic. His ex-wife just divorced him. Marcia is a workaholic too. They must have a lot in common. Sandra redirected the conversation back to Leo after a few sentences. If Leo was such a workaholic, where did he find the time to pursue me, or the time to meet his ex-wife and son every month? My parents were not keen to bring up Leo, but my dad asked her directly, Sandra, what about you? Why don't you find a companion? If you had a few kids when you were younger, you wouldn't be alone now in your old age. Sandra looked visibly uncomfortable, being single. How free it feels. I used to think the same way. That being alone was more comfortable. I picked up where Sandra left off. My parents are constantly pushing me. I'm so busy with work. Where do I have time for romance? If I had a child, there'd be no one to help them as they get older. Why not just hire a nanny? With your high salary, you could afford 2, one to take care of your parents and another for your child. Wouldn't that be great? Sandra said, unwittingly revealing too much. Even my own parents don't know how much I earn. They have no idea about the extent of my finances. My parents don't like the idea of having a nanny. If they did, I'd have moved out and lived at the office long ago. Why need a nanny? They are so expensive. Besides, haven't you seen online how some nannies treat the elderly and children? Anyway, your father and I don't want one. Don't even think about it. My mom immediately objected. We don't need you to look after us in the future either. We'll go to a nursing home. We have our pensions. We don't need your support. Chapter 5. Sandra was persistently trying to convince my parents to accept the idea of hiring a nanny. Just then, my phone rang. It was Leo. I answered casually. You're back from your business trip? Want to take me to a movie? Sure. He's practically delivering hair samples to me. Perfect. After telling them I was going out to watch a movie with Leo, Sandra quickly made her excuses. I've been here half the day already. I should get going. She left cheerfully. As soon as she was out the door, my mom's face fell. You decide how to spend your salary. We never meddled, but she sure had plans for it. I hugged her and playfully said, Mom, unless I willingly give out money, who can take it from me? You little miser. My mom sighed. I just hope Sandra's involvement with us isn't with ulterior motives. I hope not too. But it's too late. I'm going to the movies with Leo. You guys should rest early. I'll head back to my apartment tonight. Getting Leo's hair was easy as he always falls asleep during movies. Without fail. Especially since he just spent a week with his ex-wife and son and had just gotten off a plane. Every time he lands, he asks me out to a movie. I'm tired of it. But he seems to enjoy it, successfully securing a sample of Leo's hair. I left the cinema without looking back. Eric was waiting for me. It wasn't easy getting access to the lab. Let's get this done tonight. I handed him the blood-stained tissue, the child's blood, and then Leo's and Sandra's hair samples. This is Leo's, and this one is from who I suspect is his biological mother. Man, you went on a matchmaking date and ended up doing undercover work? Eric took the samples, starting the tests while saying, I got Sophia's husband to cut his trip short and come home. He saw the pictures of Leo and Sophia together. What's your next move? Next month, I will confront them with him. Of course, what else would I do with people like that? I remembered the kid's continuous nosebleeds. Non-stop nosebleeds must indicate some illness, right? Probably, but it would need tests to confirm. Using this blood sample, Eric placed the tissue in a colorless solution. Many conditions can cause nosebleeds. Next month, I'll go to Shanghai with you. Eric stared at the test tube, not looking up. It's a whole family against you. I don't want you to be at a disadvantage. Eric and I grew up together, and we knew each other very well. I agreed. It's my first time dealing with this kind of situation, and I'm a bit nervous. Mainly, I worry they might harass my parents or impact my job. That's why I arranged a month-long trip to Europe for my parents. Actually, you should let your parents know what kind of person Leo is, so they won't set you up with another guy like him, Eric suggested as he drew a droplet from the solution with a pipette and placed it under the microscope. The owner of this blood sample has a disease. It appears to be genetic, meaning one of his parents, either the father or the mother, must be a dominant or recessive carrier. Chapter 6. I don't understand medicine, so Eric's explanation left me confused. He then handed me 2 paternity test reports. The 2 hair samples confirm a genetic relationship of 99.9%, but the blood sample shows no blood relation to Leo. Zing! Leo tirelessly spent a week each month with the child, yet he had no actual relation to him. I realized something. This child might not even belong to Sophia's current husband. Eric glanced at me disdainfully. Don't worry about the rich. I've already contacted him. He's taken the child for a paternity test even quicker than you could. We'll head over a day early next month. After all this help, I guess I'm entitled to crash at your place, right? Of course. No problem. But you'll have to wait a month. You know I can only boil water and order takeout. My culinary skills are limited to instant noodles. Eric didn't even bother to roll his eyes. You say that. But I can do that too. So, a month from now. And don't you dare try to get busy on me. My phone rang, and seeing Leo's name on the display, I casually answered. You fell asleep halfway through the movie. Couldn't wake you. So I went to the night market by myself. Don't bother looking for me. I'll head home on my own. After hanging up, Eric spoke up. I'll give you a ride home. Perfect. I didn't drive. I didn't hesitate to accept his offer. Have you had dinner yet? I ordered takeout. Eric then handed me another lab report. I conducted another test. Based on my analysis, one of the child's parents must also have the same condition. Well, you needn't worry about it. The kid has his own parents. I waved my phone at Eric. Let's head to my apartment. My parents are probably asleep by now. Eric quickly packed up the lab equipment and locked up the lab. He retrieved the car keys from my bag. After all this, your parents won't set you up on blind dates so casually anymore, will they? They might stop setting me up on random blind dates, but they won't give up entirely. I smiled bitterly. My parents are eager to have grandchildren, but where am I supposed to pull one out from? I understand how you feel. My family has been pressuring me lately too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be hiding out in the lab. Eric looked distressed. What's so great about blind dates anyway? Look at what you ended up with. I thought for a moment and said to Eric, I don't know Leo well enough to judge him, but there's one thing I'm sure of. He wants to marry me to leverage his way into Boat. With my position in the company, they'd consider my spouse's placement. I own 5% of Boat's original shares. There's no way Boat would agree to let me resign. Eric muttered under his breath. Why do you have less original shares than I do? I have 8%. It's just a small difference. Oh, and make sure to watch your money, Mr. Straightforward Scientist, so you don't get scammed. I patted his head. Let's keep the fact that we hold original shares to ourselves. If people find out, you can kiss your quiet lab life goodbye. Eric didn't respond to that but said instead, Leo's eager to switch jobs. I want to investigate whether there's something shady at his previous company. He probably just heard that Boat offers great benefits. I said, better to have something on Leo, just in case he can't get through you and tries to go through someone else. Eric dialed a number. Is there someone named Leo in your company? Chapter 7. Eric asked a friend to look into Leo at his company, so all I had to do was wait for the information. The next day after work, I drove straight home to help my parents pack their bags. My mom was cooking in the kitchen. Marcia, What are you rummaging through in our room? My dad noticed me packing a suitcase and searching for documents. Honey, come quick. My mom had to turn off the stove and come to the bedroom. Marcia, what's gotten into you? Passports. Where are your passports? I signed you up for a travel group. You two can go enjoy yourselves without having to envy anyone. I quickly packed my parents' luggage and handed them the travel group vouchers along with the plane tickets. My dad finally caught on. If we leave, you'll be alone. What if they bully you? We'd better stay home to help you. Eric will help me. It's just a breakup, not a divorce. You two go enjoy your trip. I'll swiftly cut off Sandra's connection to our family and make sure Leo stops bothering me. I coaxed my mom into finding their documents and sent them off to the airport shuttle. I don't want my parents to worry about me. I'm used to handling everything myself. Leo isn't really a problem, just an insignificant episode. But he made the mistake of targeting my parents. I'm my parents' weak spot, just as they are my reverse scale. It's one thing to deceive me, but don't you dare deceive them. Leo will have to pay for this. When Leo showed up again to have dinner with my parents, only I was home, eating instant noodles. Marcia, where are Auntie and Uncle? Hearing him call me Marcia made me feel repulsed. A few days ago, Sandra signed up for a seniors travel group and went away for a week. My parents were envious, so they signed up and left too. Instant noodles aren't nutritious. Let me take you out for dinner, and I'll stay over tonight to keep you company. Leo reached out to take my bowl of noodles. I picked up the bowl, dodging his hand. I'm already full. If you want to eat, go on your own. I don't need you to keep me company. Leo sat down beside me, gently placing his hand on my leg. We've been together for so long. Are you really heartless enough to kick me out? His hand, gentle and subtle, tested the waters. Of course. I'm being heartless. We've only just met. It's not appropriate for you to stay here. I stood up and moved away from him. Leo, we're not that close yet. Didn't we just talk about marriage not long ago? Is it because I've been traveling for work too much lately? I'll talk to the company and try to reduce my business trips so I can spend more time with you. You know, it's not like I have much say over the work schedule, Leo said, blocking my path. Marcia, I travel a lot too, so I understand that. But what I don't understand is why you need to stay over. I looked at Leo coldly, not bothering to hide my displeasure as he approached. We've only just met. Talking about marriage in a blind date context is just about setting expectations, not a commitment to marry right away. Aren't you getting ahead of yourself? We've known each other for months. How can you say we just met? From the time we started dating, we've both been satisfied with each other, Leo insisted, not backing down. Isn't talking about marriage just the natural next step? Chapter 8. Your phone is ringing. I pointed to his pocket, which was vibrating nonstop. You should answer it first. Leo took out his phone, glanced at the screen, and quickly hung up before putting it back in his pocket. Just a spam call. You don't need to explain. You should go home. I don't like having people stay over. Leo was standing too close, giving me a sense of danger. In my hand, I only had a half-eaten bowl of instant noodles and a plastic fork. The familiar buzzing sound came again. This time, I didn't say anything. Leo frowned, pulled out his phone, and dismissed the call again. If I wasn't mistaken, the caller ID on his screen said wife. You should answer it, just in case it's something urgent, I said, quickly moving away from Leo and heading into the kitchen when his phone started vibrating again. I gave Leo some space. He glanced at me, then took his phone and walked out to the balcony. I'm busy right now. I'll call you back when I'm done. Leo hung up and walked back towards me. It was just work, nothing urgent. Let's continue our conversation. I'm pretty busy lately, so I don't have time to discuss personal matters. You should leave, I said, pointing to the door. I need to get some rest. Leo took a couple more steps towards me, but then his phone chimed with several text notifications in a row, and he couldn't keep his calm expression anymore. We'll talk about the marriage issue when we have more time. Finally, I got Leo out the door. He hurriedly walked down the stairs, already on the phone again, speaking in a low voice. Mom, call Sophia and ask her what's going on. I was just talking to Marcia, and she kept calling me. I couldn't ignore it, but I also didn't want Marcia to hear. I've been traveling too much, and now Marcia's upset. I quietly opened the door and stood in the hallway, watching him as he spoke, covering the phone's mouthpiece with his hand. Marry him? He can keep dreaming. I was now even more eager to meet Sophia's current husband. Nearly a month had passed since Leo's last business trip, and he asked me out for lunch. I have a business trip next week. I've talked to the company, and after this trip, I'll be traveling less. I'll make time for you to get to know me better. All right. Let's talk when you get back. I'm planning to study intensively for a few days, so I might not have my phone on. I gave Leo a reasonable excuse for not staying in touch. Just send me a message when you can. I'll be busy on the trip too, so I might not reply right away. Leo quickly took advantage of my words. He's so used to acting that when he goes to reunite with his ex-wife, he makes it sound like he's just busy on a work trip. If it weren't for my calm demeanor, I might have already lost patience and exposed him. Take your time eating. I've already paid the bill. I have something else to do. So I'm leaving. I'll transfer the money to you on WeChat later. Leo reached for his phone, but I was already up and leaving. Eric told me that Leo's company is planning to downsize certain departments. Unless something changes, Leo is likely one of the people to be let go. He's facing either a reassignment or a layoff. So Leo thinks he can use me as a stepping stone to change his fate? He can keep dreaming. Chapter 9. After confirming Leo's business trip dates and location, Shanghai, I started paying attention to Sandra's movements. Sandra also went to Shanghai. Once I confirmed that, Eric and I arrived in Shanghai a day before Leo. We met Sophia's current husband, Daniel, a very shrewd-looking middle-aged man who was well-preserved. Despite his low spirits, he remained composed and politely said to me, "Marcia, Eric mentioned that you have some photos?" I handed him my phone. These are photos I took when I came to Shanghai last month. I personally heard that boy named Lucas call Leo dad. Daniel scrolled through the photos on my phone. Could you send me copies of these photos? I like to include date stamps when I take photos, so the dates were right there on the pictures, making them indisputable. I sent them to Daniel right away. What do you plan to do? I'll go on my business trip as usual. I've already arranged for someone to keep an eye on them. We can go together when the time comes, Daniel said in a low voice. The son I've been raising for years has no relation to me at all. I pulled out a piece of paper from my bag. Lucas isn't related to Sophia's ex-husband either. Daniel's face twitched slightly as he sat up straighter, scrutinizing me. Why are you doing this? How much money do you want? I know you're wealthy, but I'm not exactly poor myself. I understood what Daniel meant. He thought I had ulterior motives. I sat up straight and met Daniel's gaze without hesitation. Recently, someone introduced me to a potential partner, Sophia's ex-husband, Leo. He's very good at charming my parents, but his eagerness was a bit too much. So I started looking into his personal life. He told me he goes on business trips once a month, each lasting a week. The person who introduced him to me is supposedly childless. During my investigation, I discovered that she is Leo's biological mother. So I dug a bit deeper. By now, you should realize I have no hidden agenda. They deceived my parents and me, and I'm just protecting myself. I found you because I want to cut off their escape route completely. People with poor character don't deserve a second chance. I hate when people approach me with ulterior motives. Just like you. Daniel's expression relaxed a bit. I was overthinking it. His phone screen lit up, and he glanced at it. His expression grew colder. They've left. I patted Eric, who was dozing off beside me. It's time for us to go. Eric yawned. They really are masters of time management. Didn't waste a second. Let's see how this true love couple reacts when they face the present spouse. I sneered. I wonder where Leo gets the nerve to talk to me about marriage. Leo, with his family of 4, bought tickets and entered Disneyland. Sandra, holding Lucas, couldn't contain her joy. My sweet grandson, you haven't seen Grandma for a month. Did you miss Grandma? Lucas replied in a loud, clear voice. I missed Grandma. Did you miss Daddy? Leo, with his arm around Sophia's shoulder, gave Lucas a kiss on the cheek. Suddenly, he froze mid-action. A few people from various angles were taking pictures of the family of 4. Sophia saw Daniel and screamed, shoving Leo away. Honey, let me explain. Leo saw me standing next to Daniel. His mouth opened. Marcia, Let me explain. Sandra covered her face and tried to run, but two large men grabbed her shoulders. Our boss didn't give you permission to leave. Chapter 10. Daniel raised his hand and slapped Sophia across the face. I've been raising a bastard for years. Is this how you show your love for me? Leo hurriedly tried to explain, but I smiled at him. No need to rush. Leo, Lucas isn't your son either. You might want to ask Sophia about that. Sophia, holding her face, looked panicked. Honey, this child is yours. We were together at that time. Daniel sneered. I've already done a paternity test with that little bastard. He's not my son. And he's not your ex-husband's either. I didn't realize your life was so eventful. I underestimated you. Lucas isn't my son? How is that possible? Leo stared at Sophia in shock. Didn't you say he was my son? Sandra, who was trying to flee, turned on Sophia as soon as she heard that Lucas wasn't her grandson. She slapped Sophia several times, yelling, "You wretch! All these years, we've given you money whenever you asked, and we came every month to spend time with you and Lucas. But he's just a bastard? Give me back my money! TSK. I think I'll just sit down and watch for now." Sophia screamed. Honey, the paternity test must be wrong. Lucas is your child. Mom, stop hitting her. I never told you Lucas was Leo's son. I only said I had a son. Daniel said coldly. Lucas has a genetic disorder. Neither you nor I have it. So that means his biological father does. Why don't you go ahead and dig through your list of connections and find this man, okay? Genetic disorder? Leo's face turned black, then purple. He had been protecting Sophia from Sandra's blows, but now he let go. You couldn't even spare our neighbor? Even rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrow. And I was her boss. Daniel sneered. It seems she's got a habit of eating that grass. Well, you're free to go find other grass to munch on. He instructed his people. Get rid of all Sophia's personal belongings. Neither she nor her son is allowed to set foot in my house ever again. Call the lawyer. Sophia committed adultery during our marriage. She's leaving with nothing. Sophia's hair was disheveled, and her face was scratched from Sandra's attack. Hearing that Daniel wanted to divorce her, she panicked and pleaded. Honey, I love you. You can't do this to me. I am rich, but I'm not an idiot. Daniel's face was full of disgust. You had me raise a bastard for years, and you still have the nerve to say you love me? At this point, Leo turned his attention to me, looking embarrassed. Marcia, can we talk about our situation later? Ha, you still haven't given up on the idea of marrying me and using me to get into boat? You and your mother's little scheme isn't finished yet? I sneered. Leo instinctively glanced at Sandra, then quickly tried to look away. Still pretending? I looked at Sandra and said, Sandra, what should I call you now? I am not Leo's mother. You're mistaken. Sandra, her face scratched by Sophia, hurried to explain. Leo tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. I had a paternity test done for you and Sandra too. The mention of the words paternity test made Leo's face change dramatically. Marcia, why are you doing this to me? Haven't I treated you well? If your mother didn't know I worked at Boat, would you have gone on that blind date with me? I said coldly. You couldn't secure your job, so you thought you could use Boat's rules to take a shortcut. You're smart, but other people aren't idiots either. I didn't get to where I am by being naive. I wish you and your family a happy reunion. Eric, let's go. I walked away with Eric. Leo humiliated Daniel by cuckolding him, and Daniel wouldn't let him off easily. Was Eric who told me what happened afterward. Sophia didn't remarry Leo. Instead, she went to find Lucas's biological father, but it turned out he had died from illness. Leo's mother blamed Sophia for causing Leo to lose a high-ranking wife and constantly harassed her. I found it amusing. Are they still dreaming? I don't care if Leo has given up or not, but after my parents returned from their trip abroad, they were quiet for a while, then started trying to arrange blind dates for me again. Ugh. Asking for advice online, how can a single female executive avoid blind dates?